So what's going on, everybody?
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I apologize for last week's late video upload.
I put it in there when it was supposed to be there.
You did. This is all my fault. I'm a slacker. You can call me all the names you want to in our Facebook or Instagram. Just drop it in the comments, or YouTube. Just drop it in the comments how lame that I am. It's great. I would much appreciate that.
We're going to give him some grace.
No. Please, comment.
And then
like,
comment
subscribe, hit the little bell.
All the he just, right out front, all the things that you're not doing right now that you need to do.
Yeah, we've got 13 of you are subscribed to our YouTube.
That is not enough.
13. All you got to do is hit the subscribe button, too. Like, I'm not trying to belittle. I mean, like, you don't have to do anything with it ever again if you don't want to. I'm just asking for a subscription.
Yep.
You don't have to turn the bell on.
What if
I don't think that actually affects us. That's just,
What if I
it
don't
lets
have
you
a
listen
YouTube
to us
account?
more regularly. If you don't have a YouTube account, make one.
Yeah.
That's way too complicated.
Well, even
Google.
if it's-
No, it's not.
We need
It's the
all-
easiest thing in the world.
All the subscriptions is what we need. All
And
of
you
them.
don't even have to have a paid subscription to YouTube to be our subscriber.
No. Yeah. If you like commercials, and some people might, they could do that.
This is the one you sign up with your spam account, right?
Yes.
Yes.
That's fine, too. In fact, if you want to sign up with a couple of them and subscribe, that's great.
It's like,
I know, that's not right. I'm sorry. That's lying. I
Yeah.
shouldn't encourage that.
are you serious?
My bad.
He's fudging the numbers, and he's encouraging you to do the same thing.
I apologize.
He's doing preacher math.
Preacher.
Preacher math. Yeah, I don't think that counts in podcasts, but it might. I don't know.
It might.
The multiplication process. It might, though. I think one of our subscribers listens with their spouse.
I don't know. So, what are we talking about today?
Well, let us know in the comments whether you listen with your spouse.
Do you listen with
Or somebody.
your spouse? Do you listen in your house? Do you listen here or there? Do you listen anywhere?
Probably not, because you've not subscribed.
But you need to subscribe
We would really appreciate it. All right, so today we are going to talk about something joyful.
Joyful.
We adore thee.
I was waiting for it. That was perfect.
So the joy of giving. We're going to talk about how generosity kind of uplifts us as we give unto others.
But are we
right?
going to talk about only giving of financials?
Yes.
Really?
Because we only want to talk about money because we're church.
Oh, well, no, we're going to talk about more. So,
Well, that's what a lot of people believe, right?
right.
Because we just want your money.
No,
We haven't asked for your money actually at all.
we don't really do that.
No, not yet.
No.
Someday we're going to need the help to boost this thing, but
No.
we haven't asked for that yet.
Sponsor us at.
Yeah, you could be an advocate for us.
Yes. Ooh, we could have ambassadorships.
Ooh,
We can give you
that
special.
could get really confusing.
We'll make hats, and then for a certain amount of donation, you could have a hat and a sticker that says, "I am an ambassador for the Truth Response."
Truth ambassador. Boom.
Truth ambassadors.
And with a
Who
little
doesn't
logo.
want to be that?
Truth ambassador, and just have our little logo with the cross and the compass.
Yep.
That'd be dope. And if you can make that stuff and you're listening, reach out to us.
Yeah.
thetruthresponse
Yes, I
at
don't have time
gmail.com.
Yep.
All right. Anyways, we're going to talk about all of the types of generosity and what that actually looks like. Maybe not all of them, but a bunch of them, right?
A few of them.
One or two. So, yeah. So, welcome to the Truth Response. So,
seed.
Lizzie, would you mind praying for us today? Because we need the extra prayer.
Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for bringing us here to talk about your truth and what it means to be joyful. Help us to be able to stay on topic and to be able to do justice to the topic. In Jesus' name pray. Amen.
Man, that was a generous prayer.
It was a generous prayer. You know, we're also getting
I'm in pain, so...
We're getting a generous portion of rain right now.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Actually, that's affecting my mood.
Yeah, the church has sprung a couple leaks.
I feel so much more, like, out of it.
You don't
not
do
like... I'm not energized. Who's energized by rain? Are you?
I really love it.
Real? I'm
Yeah.
like the guy.
The only
that,
reason I'm tired right now is because I got no sleep last night.
Well, I'd rather. I mean, I could have all the sleep, and then it's a rainy day, and I just want to nap or watch movies and not do anything.
See, I'm weird though. Like I like Overcast. I think I would do great if the politics in Seattle wasn't so bad. Like I would be great there.
Okay. I mean, that's fine if that's like for me. I'm
I'm aware that most people aren't that way. Like I get it.
Yeah,
But-
I'm a sunshine guy. Yeah,
Yeah. You know what comes with the sun? Heat. I don't like that
I don't mind
either.
it.
So,
Yeah, we still got, what, day and a half, 2 days left?
Of rain, lots of rain.
yeah,
Catching
and
you up. If you're listening from afar, it's raining in Florida like a banshee.
yeah,
It's going to be like, what, 4 days straight? It's still
today is the
summertime?
first time it's let up at all. Like stopped raining at all.
Well,
in
there's just
2
a
days.
hole. There's a hole in the radar.
Yeah.
But then it's back.
Yeah, I feel like I just don't have that energy that I feel like I'm usually have a little bit more energy.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's get it back.
gonna do some push-ups. No, not really. I'm not gonna do that.
No, because it would take a lot to get us like to function that way. I guess we could take our phone out there and you could do push-ups and
No
videotape
push-ups.
it, and you can splice it in. Anyways, so yeah, we've done a lot of rambling, which we're just being generous with our rambling. But no, it has been raining a lot in Southwest Florida, and probably more of Florida than I'm giving credit for. But they were saying 22 inches was the projected, which we've only gotten 16 up until this point.
Well, that
for the whole year.
sounds like a lot of water.
Yeah.
And
I was looking at like their breakdown per hour, and we may just actually have that.
that'll be cool.
22 inches, that's a lot.
Well, more room for the fish.
In our canals and in our ditches and our
See,
driveways
you
and
won't
our
have to go as far
backyards.
to fish.
Yeah, I can
Go in
just
your front
fish,
yard.
from my front porch. It'll be great.
All right. So, generosity. What is it?
Is it general? No, that's not. That's the same thing.
Generosity?
Generosity.
Generosity.
No. All right. So generosity, the giving of your time, talent, or treasure.
Ooh, I like that. It's like you stole that from somebody.
I totally did.
Yeah. Yeah. So what, okay, time, right? Everybody kind of knows what time is. That's talent. What do you mean by talent?
Well, I mean, so if you have abilities, and you help people out with those things, like for instance,
Like a superhero?
yeah, superhero, but on like a much smaller scale, like,
Without the powers?
hey, I'll loosen this bolt or open this jar of pickles kind of scale.
Oh, I could do that.
Yeah, well, no, talent.
Loosening things, breaking things, and opening
Talent. So
things.
I
I'm
would
good.
say, like, in a church setting, you're looking at talent as like serving. You're going out there and you're on a serve team. You're helping out in kids ministry. You're being an usher, sort of. You're at the door opening, waving to people, smiling, hopefully smiling. You are making sure there's cookies out or coffee, or you're just making sure that everything's going well. Maybe you volunteer to clean a bathroom. Whatever it is, you have the talent, so you're putting it to work. And you're giving it not for reward, but anything here, but reward in heaven.
I want to tweak that just a hair.
Then tweak it.
So, like, I think that talent, giving of your talent is things that you're actually, like, especially good at, right? Better than average at.
Okay.
Giving of time can be anything. So I think people sometimes miss the talent. This is with the spiritual gifts thing, right? Like, in their spiritual... We need to do, like, a series on spiritual gifts in here, I think.
Should we?
Let us know if you want to hear spiritual
Mark
gifts.
it in the comments.
Yeah.
Spiritual gifts, yes or no?
So one of the things that we talked about was I could scrub the toilets, right? I could do that. I could spend time doing that. Am I good at that?
Wait, you can?
Am I good at that? No, I'm not good at that. I could preach. Am I good at that? Not really. I mean, I'm okay, but I'm not good at it, right?
I just did it.
Yeah. See, your talents is being used. I think time and talent can sync up, but
Yeah.
don't always. And I think that we need to work towards making, obviously, filling in where it's needed, but getting in those places where our talents are being used, we're going to be most effective. So,
Yeah.
but yes.
Or maybe, okay, so there's also, so we're separating them, but they're also the intermix.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes you need to give of more than one area at a time. Or what if there's a fourth area?
Well, we haven't talked about the third one yet.
Oh, yeah.
Treasure.
Treasure.
And treasure could be
Your
the
stuff.
money you receive or
Or-
the things you receive, right?
Yeah.
Things you have.
I could be like, hey, here is a wrench. Or, hey, here is $5.
I love how you're like, here's a wrench, because that's your treasure. That's more like my trash. I'm like, you want this? Because I don't know what to do with it.
I might, like,
I'm just kidding. But
a wrench. Okay, I'm a dude that loves tools, all right?
Yeah,
So a
yeah.
wrench counts.
I'm
And
more laughing at myself than at you, because, like, that is not the first thing that comes to mind. Like, if I give you a D&D mini or something like that, like, you should feel special, because it's hard for me to get rid of any of that stuff. So,
well,
but
it's hard for me to turn down tools. Giving them away it's gonna be like, you're gonna borrow it? Oh, you want this? Oh. But actually,
intermixing. You're
getting
talking
there.
about intermixing, right?
Yeah.
Like, taking time off of work to do things for God is also giving of your treasures, because you are losing time, right? Like, okay, that's for those of us who don't get paid for time off, which is me. I don't get paid for time off. So whenever I, like, take off work to go to, like, the leadership retreat or whatever, or do anything with the church,
That's a good example.
that's giving of treasures as well. It's just a mixture of things. So don't short yourself on that, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So these are just a lot of areas of your life that, you know, you can be giving, because we tend to be stingy with everything, not just our finances. People tend to be stingy with their talents and their time as well. But like I said, I think there's another one. I think
What
it's
category is that?
we can be with our emotions. Let me explain. Some people need emotional support and need to be able to pour out emotionally, and so you have to be willing to give of that, which is kind of also giving your time. No, don't laugh at this. This is
No.
important.
Okay, so the first thing that came to mind was that's why God created women.
Just write in the comments.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Not kidding.
You can't cancel me. I'm
But-
cancel free.
Cancel free. All right. Yeah, no, think about it. Like, sometimes, I mean, things can be emotionally draining, especially when somebody's going through things.
Yeah.
To be there for someone and emotionally being there for someone, that's probably how that should sound. So, for instance, if somebody dies and you just want to be there with them, or maybe they've lost a baby, or they've lost their job, just the ability to be there in someone's time of crisis need, and lend kind of your emotional support to them is actually giving. It's definitely giving. It's not just time. Sometimes it's easy just to go someplace, and it's not as easy to give of time that requires emotional giving as well.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. I like that. So, a lot of people use the Old Testament giving a tenth as a standard of their tithe, of their giving, of the way they do things. Whether that's a tenth of everything, time, talent, treasure, whatever. But is that how the Bible in the New Testament talks about giving? How Jesus talks about giving? Or Paul talks about giving, I guess. Maybe Paul. Well, Jesus talks about it too, but
you have,
like
the first time you see a tithe, a tenth, is with Melchizedek. So when Melchizedek, the king priest, comes on the scene,
which is trippy. It's a trippy thing to dive into in and of itself. We may have to do that someday.
I love that. So yeah, I have theories. So anyway,
not today, but
now you find something that's gonna get me going, and you're like, shut that down. All right, so he comes on the scene, and then Abraham gives him a tithe, tenth of what he's got. So that's the first time you see that. But as you were saying, right, you see a difference.
Yeah.
New Testament.
Yeah.
Why don't you explain your position?
All right. Well, 2 Corinthians 9:7 states, each one must give as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver.
Yeah.
Right? So if it's a solid this amount, right, percentage, whatever, that's compulsion. There's not, you haven't decided that. Somebody else has decided that for you. Whether you want to do it or not, that's still somebody else has decided that for you. So there's that.
Well, I think having a tenth, a tithe, can still be a cheerful, you've decided to do this thing.
Can be.
Yeah, my wife and I, we do that. And
sure.
We do that joyfully. We give that because that's part of our worship. That's we've decided to do that. And we didn't always.
Yeah.
We got to the point where we felt like God was saying, look, man, you got to trust me with this too.
Sure. But then there's also Mark 12:41 through 44, where Jesus is talking about the widow and her offering. And he sat down opposite the treasury and watched the people putting money into the offering box. Many rich people put in large sums, and a poor widow came and put in 2 small copper coins, which make a penny. And he called his disciples to him and said to them, truly I say to you, this poor widow has put in more than all those who are contributing to the offering box. For they all contributed out of their abundance, but she, out of her poverty, has put in everything she had, all she had to live on. So 10% for poorer people, less wealthy, poorer people. I don't want to say unfortunate or whatever. Like those who get less monetarily. 10% can be a lot. That can be a sacrifice, right? But for somebody who makes a lot of money, it can be a sacrifice. I'm not saying it can't be. But generally, the more you make, the easier it is to give that 10%. Now, there's lots of exceptions to rules in some of those categories. But it just is one of those things that's like, it's not really sacrificially giving at that point.
Well, I think the greatest reason... Oh, go ahead.
You guys have been just focusing on the giving part, not the joyful part of it.
Oh, yeah.
I was getting there, but...
Yeah. Go ahead.
You're right,
but,
go ahead.
I think the greatest example of this is Ananias and Sapphira. It's not that the amount that they gave from the sale of their land that was the problem. It was the lying about it and saying it was everything.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't care if it was everything, but just don't make it sound like it is when it's not.
Yeah, don't be lying to the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And they did it all out of obligation because they thought that's because everybody else was doing it, and we don't want to look bad in front of everybody, so we're going to do the same thing, but it's not the right.
Well, I don't know if I would call it obligation. It was definitely a feeling like, they see everybody else doing it and they wanted to do it too. But the thing is that they couldn't justify it in their hearts. But then yet they acted as if it was, and that was a big. There's such a heart problem there that they were trying to look like these other people without actually having the heart of those people. And there's that story really scared me for a long time. I'm not gonna lie.
What about like Acts 2?
Acts 2.
Acts 2:44 through 45. And all who believed were together and had all things in common. And they were selling their possessions and belongings and distributing the proceeds to all, as any had need.
Yeah. All in people, man.
All in people.
All in people.
Those are examples of generosity, too.
So going back to what I was going to say, so you have that, when he talks about the 2 copper coins versus these other people giving exuberant amounts,
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of already hit the nail on the head because you said, for some people it doesn't really hurt.
Right.
10% doesn't really hurt. At that point, are you going through the motions?
Right.
Or is it because your heart's in it? Yeah, you can do it joyfully because it doesn't hurt. Or you can do it joyfully because I feel like I want to give to God. And this woman had such desire for God in her life. Perhaps it was to intervene. Perhaps it was just for blessing. Whatever it was. And gave, as Jesus pointed out, gave everything she had.
Mm-hmm.
To some people they might have laughed at it, but to him, he sees it. And that's really the part of it, the heart of it, which kind of, that's what you're talking about. Where's your heart at, when it comes to giving? It's not
where your treasures are, right?
Yeah.
Where's your heart at?
Yeah. If
right
your
on.
heart's in chasing God and you're trusting Him for everything, for trusting Him in abundance, you're trusting Him in poverty, you're trusting Him for provision and protection and everything that comes with it. Well, then that's how you give in that faith.
Mm-hmm.
I think it kind of talks. It's wild that you see this, yet we still see this today. You see it in the scripture, and today you still see people who are just checking off boxes, man. Their heart's just not into it.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons I couldn't go to certain denominational churches or just certain churches, let's widen it a bit, that just go through certain traditional motions on Sunday morning. Because for me, I was just going through the motions when I went there.
Sure.
I was, okay, you do this at this time. And the worst thing for me is they give, this particular church I went to, they give you, and there's churches like this, you get it's almost like a program. When you walk in the door, this is your bulletin, it's your program, and it runs you through the whole service. And so I'm just checking things off. Like I'm at a middle school band concert, like how many more till I can get out of here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so...
How many more bad songs do I have to sing?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, but yeah, when this is going to happen, when that's going to happen. Okay, this is this prayer time. And it also doesn't help that some of these places, in this particular church, this tradition, you get your program, and then when some of these things happen, songs, for instance, it's not really singing joyfully. It's people almost reluctantly...
God from whom all blessings flow.
Yeah. You're almost... the whole congregation is reluctantly singing out of this book. Oh, they said this number song. They all have numbers. Right. We're going to sing this. And the funny thing is depending on the organist, we actually had 2 different organists. The backup organist, I used to joke that her batteries were wearing out because our regular organist would play dun, 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 dun. The backup organist, dun, 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 dun. And it just felt like everything was slower. It's a little more agonizing for me. But, you get what I'm saying? It's when you have that kind of setting, a person like me, I'm like... I'm not getting anything out of this. I'm not growing. I'm not feeding. I don't really want to pour into it either. I just want out of this. That's what I want.
Right. So giving, right? When you're talking about giving, I believe that it talks about giving sacrificially in those different areas. So for the example of us, we give a little more than 10%, not a lot, but a little bit more than 10%, and we do something that some people look down on, and that is we have it automatically done. Some people really like or really think that you should, make sure you do it each and every time. If you're giving on the app or whatever, you're doing it every time, or you're giving a check, or you're giving because it's part of your practice or whatever. It's part of your, being in it. And part of our being in it, part of our, I guess, I don't know. The reason why we give through automatic is not just because it's easy, because it is easy, but it's also so that regardless of our circumstances, that's coming out first. It's set. It's the way that it is. If I don't work a week, the same amount of money's coming out because I don't get paid time off at my job. So the same amount of money's coming out regardless, and it is what it is. So that's how we do our giving. I mean, we haven't talked about it too much, but
well, I mean, I can understand, and I agree with that. For me, actually, I think I'll speak for both myself and my wife, because I can, and a lot of this is more me than her, but we're faithful, but I'm also distractible, and I'm forgetful.
Yeah.
So all it takes is if I was trying to do it every week, and not have something set up, if you put it in my hands, there's a chance I'm going to get distracted and not do it.
Yeah.
And I'll forget about it. And then it won't happen. And then I'll be like, oh man, I'm behind on my tithes. So Sadie, I love her so much. She recognizes this, and she either sets it up automatically or she takes care of it. She knows she's got her book, so she does it when she does it. And she's like, well, here's your paycheck. This is how much this is. We're doing that. And I'm like, cool. And that just makes it easy. But systems like that are good for me.
Yeah.
Just so that I don't get in my own way of what I want to do. And like you said, that's coming out first. I want to honor God with everything that I get.
Yeah.
And it's easier if I have a little help there. And if it's from recurring giving, then it is that. And if it's my wife, it's that. But I think it's, I don't know. I'm not ashamed to admit sometimes that I need help. I can't do it.
Sure.
And in some ways, I think honestly, giving money and finances and stuff, that is in some ways the easiest kind of giving out of all the giving you're talking
100%.
about. In that you can do it thoughtlessly. You can do it without thinking about it. You can do it without the joy. You can do it without any of that stuff and just do it because you're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
The other ones, they take a little bit more effort on your part.
Yeah, and also money's not the only giving that can be surface level.
Sure.
So, for instance, I used to run a team for mobile church. So our teams were the ones that set everything up for church, because we had a shared space. So on Sunday you had to set everything up, and then once church service was over, you had to take everything down and put it away, so that space was not our space anymore. And so anyone listening, that's what that means. And we would be low in team members for this, and so I would be like, listen, I would try to recruit, but when I needed help, I would go to the people in the church above myself and be, hey, could we make an announcement maybe, or something that we can maybe help get people in here to help us with these teams. And they would give they went up from the platform and they were like, oh yeah, so if you can stick behind, we got to take this whole thing down after church. If you could just stack some chairs. And I guess they thought, when they said that if they got into stacking chairs, they might help us. No. They would stack a couple chairs and leave. But as much as it was oh, you need a little bit? Oh, well, here it is. And then I can go. I don't want to actually be a part of this. Surface level stuff. And it's wild to see how consumer-based people are, where it's I don't really want to give back into this. I just want to keep taking.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something that, people outside the church see that. It's part of the reason some people don't want to go to church, whether that's based on money or your time or whatever. It's that surface level lifestyle when it comes to church is what pushes a lot of people away, or keeps them at an arm's length. I know one guy in particular that I talk to on a regular basis who's yeah, if the church had more people like you, I might want to go. And that's a relationship that was built up, but like that whole, like, it's not surface level, for me.
Yeah.
Whereas like the people that he's seen in the past, people that he's had experience with in the past being in church, is surface level, all of it. And so that's just how he sees it. And so if we've got a surface level mentality for our giving, it's not going to bring us joy, which we're going to talk about here in just a second, like how that actually brings us joy. But B, it's going to push people away if we're not genuine and real in our giving. And that's talents, time, and all that. I'm not necessarily, once again, the money, like you said, is the easiest to do, right, for most people. So just got to be cautious of that. But did you want to say something? You act like you want to say something.
I'm trying not to burp.
What do you stare at them for?
I think too, like, sorry, my brain's trying to catch up. There's also like people that, obviously give out of obligation and stuff like that, and give because that's what they're supposed to do and stuff. But I think people too often too, they feel like they have to give of their time, like, all the time. Like, I'm not giving enough.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing enough. And sometimes that keeps them from doing the great things that God wants for them to do. Mm-hmm. And they're doing good stuff, but it's not the great stuff that God has planned for them.
Or they'll substitute. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I've heard this.
It's easier to stack chairs than it is to,
open your wallet.
Teach a kid. Well, or teach a kid's class. Like.
Well, that's even if you're willing to stack a chair. There was plenty of people I saw just get up and leave, and then.
Yeah.
But so I mean, I've seen where they're like, well, they don't really need my money, but I'll stack this chair. They don't really need my money, but I'll help hand out coffee. That's how I contribute. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you're kind of missing the greater part here. Like, it's not supposed to be.
It's not like this or this. It's this and these.
It's yeah.
And to what you've decided to give too. I mean, like, there's an understanding that's missing, right? Like, for people who are surface level-y with all this stuff, like what we're talking about, like, there's an understanding that's missing, that the joy piece, because I don't want to leave that out. I mean, I don't want to miss that part of this conversation. There's the joy piece that they're not understanding comes with this actually giving joyfully.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so for instance, like, I think a lot of it comes down to, we can start with heart condition, but then it's perspective. How you're willing to see what it is that you're doing. And so, for instance, when it comes to giving of your time, we'll start with time on low-level things like holding a door and smiling at people, or handing coffee out. Okay, let's say it's something like that. And if you look at it as like, well, I'm just doing this because this needs to be done, that's the wrong perspective. If you're thinking, you never know how different this could be for somebody, how their experience could be different, and there's a joy in that. Like, man, I get to hold this door. Who knows who'd be whose day I could make better by smiling at them and welcoming them into the door. Who knows who could be like, oh my gosh, thank you for this coffee or this hot chocolate or whatever it is. To think and see everything as an opportunity to serve God and to do something that could further His kingdom, and even in the smallest increments. I've read so many stories, and I've been to so many churches where some of the people that make the most impact hold doors and smile at people.
Man, I'll tell you, that's so true. Like, one of the conferences that the leadership team went on just after Nick got here, I think it was. Or was it just after Nick got here? Okay. Yeah. In 2020. We went to, I don't know, it was a conference somewhere. West Palm Beach area or something like that. And I was needing to get our car fixed because belts or brakes or something was going out and it was messed up on our trip up. Almost caused a wreck. And so, like, I stopped and talked to somebody who ended up being one of the pastors there. I think he was like
Not on that campus, but yeah.
not of that campus, right. But he was one of the bigwigs of the whole thing. And greeted him, got my name, all that stuff. And was like, yeah, we can help you. Go down here and do this. And this is where you should go. This is the best place. All that. So afterwards, when I came
there was
back,
thousands of people at this conference.
Thousands of people. It was packed, right? And I wasn't even at the conference. I was there hanging out with Serenity, doing other things the whole time while they went to the conference because I wasn't a part of leadership or anything at that time. So I come back to meet up with them to go to dinner or whatever, but I was waiting for them just outside, in the lobby or whatever. And the guy walks up, greets me by name, and is like, hey, did you get all that stuff taken care of? Like, this is like 2 days later, a day and a half later. Like, no clue that he took any kind of thought into who I was. It was one of those things that was like, man, if everybody here is like that, I want to be a part of this. Yeah. And I don't even live here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's
not once did I think that whole conference did I ever happen to open a door besides the bathroom door.
Yeah. Well,
that's probably a good thing.
And then if people asked where something was, they didn't just give you directions. They would oh, come follow me, and somebody else would step in and hold the door, and they would take you where you needed.
It was clear that it wasn't just a show there, which it was a big church too, and I have my own perception of big churches, and it's not a good one most of the time. But it really blew me away that all of their people were just so ready and willing to be there for you because that's what they do. Yeah. It was just a part of who they were. It was quite incredible. They understood what was going on. They understood why they were giving in the ways that they were.
I've had the same experience with very large churches and very, very small churches, where it's a culture. It's where everybody is in on this. Like, it's that all-in thing where everybody understands, like, hey, everything that we do here helps what we're doing. Everything you do, no matter how big or small, it's all important. It all can make an impact. It all can further us. So if you're to the point where, like, giving your time to show up in an event and be there, even if it's in a supporting role, hey, we're here to, how that can change someone's perspective of the event. How giving you talent, hey, I can come in and actually I can paint that wall. I'm really good at painting walls. And how you think about how this is going to make it look so much nicer, and it could really affect how people, oh man, this would be great. Or, hey, yeah, you know what? I do have the extra money. And, if I give it to the church, think about it, man, that helps them stay on, where they need to go, and they can possibly get some new stuff, and or maybe you'll reach some more people. Like, the idea is that, when you give so joyfully, they're part of it, I think, is this, because, look, you want to be part of what the Lord's doing, I don't think enough people grasp that. I think in a large church and in a small church, churches that have that, that's the people you see smiling from the door to the pulpit and back and everywhere in between, where everybody is just ready to be there for you. They care. They want to know your name. They want you to have a great experience, because this is not just a place. This isn't just a business, because, whatever it is. This is where God is. This is where we get to be with God together, and it's a family, and this is what it's about. And it doesn't matter how big that family is. Yeah. It's all-encompassing.
There's also generosity outside of the church.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That is something that we as Jesus followers are supposed to be doing too. And it doesn't look the same for everybody. So the examples I'm giving, if you're not doing it, that's not what I mean. Some of the examples are like paying for the person's stuff behind you or in front of you in line at Walmart, right? That can be generosity. That can be a thing that can really not only bring you joy, but bring joy to somebody else that might plant a little seed, right? The generosity of just being willing to listen and not be frustrated when somebody bumps into you, like your example a couple of weeks ago, right? Like I love that because it applies in so many different levels.
Or just be willing to be more patient. In so many different circumstances, be more patient for a parking spot. Let somebody else get the good one.
Yeah.
Be more patient on the road driving. You know what? I don't need to be in a rush. They can go. They can take that. They can, and it's amazing how far that goes. Be willing to stop and, well, if there's 18 people trying to walk into a store at once, be the guy that's willing to stop and hold the door.
Yeah.
It may not be do something for everyone, but there might be one of those people in there that's like, man, I can't believe that dude did that.
I think part of that too is not just like you being joyful, but like encouraging other people that are being joyful in the midst of it. Like the other day we were at Walmart and this guy came out of the back. He's working there and he's just singing and dancing and like I said something and I was like, so you're getting off or on work? He said, actually, I've just started. I was like, that's awesome that you're like, that's so cool that you're that hyped up about being at work.
Yeah, no, it was definitely an encouraging thing, especially working at Walmart.
Especially at Lehigh Walmart. But
yeah, Lehigh
like,
Walmart.
And then we got in line and the lady was teasing Serenity and having fun with Serenity and like took the time to talk to her and stuff like that. And it was like this is a place where most of the time people are unhappy, and here are these two people that are just being joyful and just being, thanking them for being joyful and encouraging them in that. Like how many people would have seen that and been like, what are they doing, Or like, oh, that's a bad example.
Well,
or
even
like whatever.
The guy working is a good example. Doing a great job at no matter what your work is. I went to a restaurant a month ago or so, wherever it was, and our server was just awesome, and he was very personable and he remembered everything and he took extra special attention to the kids and he was very pleasant and he was commenting to us a lot and complimenting different things and it was such an experience that, like, I remember the guy's name. I remember what he looked like, his name. And ended up the guy lived in Lehigh, and I was like, oh, man, I remember this dude. I wanted to remember that dude because he had such a great way about him in his work. Like, he put more than just taking my order and doing the thing. He actually thrived at what he was doing. And, we're good tippers at that point, so good on him. But I ran into him at Aldi one day, randomly.
Yeah.
I happened to look over and like, oh, my gosh. You're the guy from the restaurant. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, your name's this. And I pointed out to him. And he's like, yeah. How did you remember that? I said, well, you made it easy to remember. I remembered your name and that we had the conversation. And the thing is that like the whole point of that is just that you never know what kind of impact you're going to have by sometimes just giving a little extra because you can. Why hold back? Why walk into situations so begrudgingly, even if when you have an opportunity to give a little bit more instead?
So I feel like, especially at this point, it's obvious what the receiving end, how they get joy from you giving.
Yeah.
How do you get joy? Like, what is the joy that you get from giving? Does that make sense? Like what's the positive effects of generosity for the
specific
giver?
Examples or just general?
Sure, or just general, either way.
For me, when I'm teaching the elementary school kids, like, it energizes me. It gets me excited. It gets me because they ask good questions. I mean, of course, there's bad days that it doesn't go well, but like, it makes me want to do it again. It makes me want to work harder on my lessons. It makes me want to, think more about how do I get them to that aha moment? Like I get it. Like, and so like that pushes me deeper into my study and my faith and stuff because I want them to get it too. Do
you have any specific examples that stand out from like a certain, you don't have to say names, but like certain kids that like situations that have happened? Not that I asked now.
Yeah.
Not now that I asked.
Yeah, not now that you've asked.
Well, I mean, I understand completely. There's something energizing about something that you may not have realized you did that makes an impact later. So for me, like if I find out a student really was listening and they went into their Bible and they wanted to see more of it, and then they come back like, hey, yeah, I read that thing in this. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. Like,
Yeah.
that is like, that's a boost and a half. But it's not just in a church setting, as you said. Like sometimes it's just being a friend. You may not ever see reward for the times, but sometimes you do. I think God does that. He'll give us little things there was a guy, his name's Chad, and Chad was going through a bad time. And I don't know what I said to him. I remember reaching out to him and just talking to him. And I cannot remember talking to him about God. I cannot remember talking to him about church. I don't know if I did. I don't know. But I can tell you that about a month later, he stops by my work and he's like, hey, man, I just need to thank you so much for that. And I almost forgot I did it. And he's like, yeah, I've been going to church again and I've been doing this. And I'm like, I have no idea what I said, but whatever it wasn't for me then because God used me. And I was just willing to do it. And I was so happy by that. I'm like, I have no idea. The best part is that it wasn't even me anymore. I mean, the only thing I was willing to do was do it. But apparently, just putting yourself out there, God can use that to do things you have never imagined. And so that's the kind of thing, like just doing it because I get excited to do good things, thinking, well, God could use this. And for that person, who knows? Who knows?
Especially when you fall into your, talents. Like whenever you're utilizing your talents, you get joy from doing that generously, right? Like, there's a lady in our church that's helping us out with some remodeling and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
She's given more than generously. And at first it was like, you can't be doing this. Like, that's too much. And then I always get beat up with the whole don't steal somebody's blessing, like that they're trying to give, but it's like, she explained it that it is something that truly brings her joy to be able to utilize her talents and feel useful, feel like she's involved, and being able to just give of what God has blessed her with. And it's really been uplifting for me, spending the time with her and just doing some of that stuff. But really, sometimes it's just, it brings you so much joy. Like whenever, for instance, whenever I'm playing, right? I'm using my talents and time because it feels like we're practicing all the time. When I play guitar on Sunday, sometimes I forget that I'm giving of my talent because I just get into worship. Like I get lost up there sometimes. It's just like, just really focusing on God. And then I got people coming up and being like, hey, we really love it whenever you sing. And it's like, oh, thanks. I didn't even think about the fact that, that's happening, because it's just one of those things that I get so into it. And sometimes I really need that too. Sometimes I really need the whole encouragement, that giving of just a good word, because at the same time, as soon as I start making mistakes, as soon as things start screwing up, it's real easy for me to be like, oh, this was trash, like, and then people are like, that was so good, and you're like, thanks, because you don't feel like it was, but it's easy to get off track, and it's really great when people bring you back by just giving a generous word.
I love it when somebody stops me and tells me something like that, like doesn't allow me to just surface level, like that wants to engage. I want you to know.
Yeah.
And they have no idea how much that affects me in such a positive way. I'm my own worst critic.
Yeah.
You know, and it's wild too because like, so even, all right, getting away from non-ministry things. So I paint, you know, and I had somebody that came to my house. This is when I was still up in Maryland, and they got really excited about that. I was like, yeah, and I did this painting the other day. And I'm like, wait, you paint? I was like, yeah. And they're like, seriously, can I see someone? I was like, well, I can take you down to my studio because I had the one set up. And they're like, really? And yeah. And so I took them down, and they were like blown away. And I was like, look, my paintings aren't that great, but they love them. And I got to tell you, like, it's no matter how much I was trying to fight, like when that person left my house, I was like, you know, all right. I started feeling pretty good. You know, okay. You know, I think I'm going to make another painting here soon. You know, it's like, all right, maybe it's not as bad as I thought. So,
and don't use, just throwing that out there, don't use false humility, even accidentally. I'm not saying you're intentionally being falsely humble, to steal somebody's blessing. Like, if somebody's coming to give you a compliment, don't make them out to be stupid by saying, no, I'm not great, or no, it's not that good. Like, that is totally stealing their thunder, right? Like, they're trying to just show their appreciation and you know, really love on you, and you're poo-pooing on them at that point, you know?
It can be hard, though, for somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you and me. Kind of people, like, coming up to us and be like, hey, you did this, and it's awesome. And you're like, I didn't think so, but okay.
You're right. It's so, yeah. But don't do that, because, you know, it's hard enough to find genuine people out there. So when people are coming up to you and just being like, hey, I just want you to know I appreciate what you're doing and how you're doing it and whatnot, like, own that, love on that, accept that, you know, let them bless you in that way. I had a lady this last Sunday who sought me out after church just because we hadn't talked, we hadn't seen each other in a while, and I was thinking about her the other day. And so when she came up, I was like, hey, how are you? She's like, I just had to get a hug. You know, I miss seeing you. You know, we don't talk a whole lot. And so, but she just gave me a big old hug. And I was like, you know, I was thinking about you the other day. And she was like, oh, yeah, I was thinking about you too. And so we talked a little bit. She's probably going to hem up some of my pants here in the near future. She's my go-to for that.
Time, talent, and treasure.
Yeah, right. She's my go-to for that. And I love her to death. But we briefly caught up a little bit, and it was really good. I mean, it just felt good because I wasn't just in the back of the auditorium or nothing. Like, I was down a hallway and everything else. She sought me out to just give me a hug and love on me. So it really it brings joy to you to do that kind of thing for others, but it also can totally rearrange somebody's day in a positive way. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yesterday, although I'm starting to think that some of the members of the church want me fatter, but yesterday there was a lady in our congregation that went kind of out of her way. She had a cake made for me.
Nice.
Yeah. So she, around my birthday, she I guess online saw that my mom had been trying to track down a Black Forest cake for me because I love them, and I couldn't find one. Well, she put that mental note aside, and so she hits me up yesterday. She's like, "Hey, I'm gonna
Is it
stop
one
up."
of the singers that we have on stage?
No.
Oh, no?
I'll tell you later. But
Okay.
so she's like,
she's good too. I just want to put that out there.
well, no, but she's like, "Yeah, I got a cake for you. I'm gonna drop it off." I'm like, "Are you serious right now?" And then not only did she drop off a cake, she dropped off some cookies and some fudge, and I'm like, "My gosh, this is a lot of sugar." But like, I mean, it was so nice.
But it was good.
Oh, that cake! I had some last night, man. I had actually a little bit of everything because my inner fat kid does not let me get away with.
Dude, I got to keep stuff out of my house, or else my inner fat kid and my outer fat kid really get together and have a good time.
They just party. Yeah. No, but I mean, it's wild. Like, I love it, you know. And the thing is that you can tell this particular person was like, you know what? I know how I can bless him. That's his cake. I can get him one of them cakes. And honestly, if she never did it, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But it is a big deal for me now because she cared enough to track down a cake and get it made
Not
and
only
bring
she
it.
cared to do it, she remembered
Oh, yeah.
something that was said on Facebook. Like
Yes.
and
Yes.
it wasn't like something was directly said in front of her or like
It's specifically you thought process, right?
Yeah.
Like they thought about you specifically.
Yeah.
It wasn't a generalized thing.
Yeah, and
It was a
awesome.
you specific thing, and that's the best kind of giving. Like when you think when you're in the moment and you think about what you're doing, like giving means so much more to everybody involved whenever you're thinking about the person that you're giving to, right? Like when you're actually thinking, because that's the deep, right? That's the non-surface level that we're talking about, because anybody could do anything for anybody on a surface level, right? With just, oh, I'm just going to send them a card because that's what you do, right? Whatever. A thank you card because that's what you do. But like, for instance, Derek Tennant never gives me a thank you card. You know why? Because I asked him to not do that anymore. I hate cards.
Really?
I hate it so much. So whenever I see him signing cards and I don't get one, I actually feel appreciated because he thought enough about me to not give me one.
That's an interesting
Which
thing.
I know sounds stupid, but I absolutely hate cards. I think they're dumb. Unless you're giving me this handwritten note on a piece of paper, I don't want it. Like, I have zero desire to get a card for anything.
Well, I mean, it's one thing, but like, going back to what you said, there's just the remembering of something and like having that love focus for someone. Where you're like something.
Yeah.
You hear that they don't have something that they could use or want, and you're like, you know what, I would like to do that. Or like the lady did for me, which was amazing. Like, I love it so much, and my stomach is gonna love it. My weight's not gonna love it, but but like, just you zero in on someone. It's kind of like, and I love it when some things go unplanned. Like when you and I, when my house and your house were buying each other T-shirts.
Yeah.
Right? That was hilarious.
Yeah.
Because Sadie came to me and she's like, what do you think? And I'm like, yes, we should buy him that T-shirt. And you bought me a T-shirt.
Yeah.
And we did not know. Well, I didn't know. I just walked into a T-shirt, and then you didn't know that like we had a T-shirt for you.
But you guys had already ordered, I think, the shirt for me before I contacted your wife about your shirt.
Yeah.
We hey.
Yeah, we ordered yours. And it was like, I mean, it was kind of cool. I was like, I can't believe this is happening right now. But, that's when, like, just moments like that, it's that you're just loving each other for a minute.
Yeah.
Like, it's not about yourself at all. Like, we didn't do that because, I know that person's buying a shirt, so I got to buy a shirt. No, it was just, we happened to find shirts. We're like, that person needs to have this shirt.
Right. And it was definitely like, this person should have this shirt if they don't already have it. Like, this is something that needs to be something that they wear. And it was awesome. On both ends, it was just so great.
Yeah.
So, okay. I want to point out a passage of scripture that is just solid encouragement for all of this, and that's Proverbs 11:25. A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. Like, it's just how it's designed. That whenever you really lean into the generosity for others, you prosper. And prosper doesn't necessarily mean you gain lots of money. Prosper can mean just life is better. You have a different outlook. Your perspective is that things are just better. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean you'll get more money or more things or more stuff, because that's not what it means to prosper or to be successful or to be wealthy, really.
Sometimes it's just prospering in your heart.
Yeah.
For those, we get kind of going back to it. Like when you give someone something and you've put some time into it, even if you haven't, like you thought and you thought about them and you're like, I feel like this would really make a difference. When you do that, and it does, which maybe even more than you thought. The feeling that I've gotten before when I've I'll use my mother. She loves it when I talk about her, so here's one for you, Mom. Like, when I would think for Christmas, for instance, this is going to mean so much to her. I know it will. Like, I just feel like it will. And then, like, my mom would cry because, yeah, it hit. Like, there's a feeling of, like, I nailed it. I nailed it. It really did mean a lot. She knows I love her. She knows that I care, in that moment. It's almost addictive. Actually, some people do get a little too go crazy with that. There is such a thing as being self-serving by giving all the things because you want that recognition.
Well, that's not being
that's not
being present in what you're doing.
I finally thought of an example.
There you go. All right, give us the example.
So, just this last Sunday, there was a lot of chaos going on in the kids' church. So, like, it was hard to get them to focus just because there was a lot of stuff going on that wasn't normal and just caused the focus not to be there. And I was like, you know what? We're going to end the lesson early. I'm going to give them free time. And I was like, but instead of sitting there and just watching them, I'm going to go try and talk to as many of them as I can. And just try and connect with the, kids personally, which the bigger we get, the harder that is to do. And I was talking to some kids and, like, just the joy they had telling me these things and knowing that I was just listening to them and I wasn't talking to anybody else. And I was just like, and, like, even one kid was like, I've had really, really bad luck lately. I stepped on a piece of glass on the beach and I did this and I did this and I was this. I was like, oh, man, that's so crazy. And he's, like, showing me the scars on his foot and stuff like that. And I was like, are you, like, accident prone or something? He's like, no, I just have really bad luck a lot. And I'm like, okay, you're probably accident prone. But, like, even he's telling me about all this bad stuff, but he was, like, excited to talk about it and have somebody listen to him talk about it. And, like, that energized me. And I was like, okay, that's what I was supposed to do today. I was supposed to talk to some kids and connect with them on a level that I haven't been able to in a while because I'm up front teaching. And I walked back to Mel, who was, helping me, and I was like, that was, like, the lesson stuff, whatever, but that was what God needed me to do. Like, the lesson, I don't care if they remember any of that. That's what God needed to do, was to talk to some of these kids. And just the joy that they have of talking to you and just, like, telling you about stuff and what they're into and things like that. Like, just taking the time.
That's
and I was like, and then I also was like, got back to Mel. And I was like, I'm kind of sad because it's how often do adults do that with kids?
Have you ever?
But then I think back about my childhood, and the ones that influenced me the most were the ones that did that to me.
Meeting kids where they're at sometimes, like, okay, I know you've probably done this before, and I did this to my daughter the other day. So she wanted to play like she was a physician's office. So she sets up her little laptop thing, and she sets up on a little stand, and she's like, who wants an appointment? And she's, like, frivolously typing, making lots of noises, which I thought was funny because that's exactly how Sadie sounds when she's typing. It sounds like she's trying to bang the keys. It's amazing.
We have a mechanical keyboard, so ours sounds like that too.
Yeah. So she just goes, but anyway, so Sadie, she's sitting there, and Faith's putting this thing together, and she hollers over at me. It's like, Dad, you need an appointment, or no, you need to come see the doctor. And I was like, I had the moment where I'm like, all right, that's it. I used actually, the dad from Bluey as my little example on how I should be. I was like, I'm gonna dive in. I'm gonna meet her there. So I'm hollering across the room, I can't come see the doctor without an appointment. And she's like, all right, I'll make you an appointment. And I was like, no, ring, ring, and and she's like, her eyes were like, yes or hello, and I'm like, I need an appointment. And she's like, oh, I can make and like. That moment where you've met them in the moment and you're enhancing it a little bit for them, you've added a little bit.
Yeah.
Was awesome, and just to see her, just that little extra.
Now, how often do we get lost in trying to make sure they learn lessons of this thing that I wrote out or this thing from the Bible where, like, we get lost in that when, life is more about that than it is about being like, okay, this is what the Bible says word for word. I mean, it is good to teach that, but, like, we can't neglect that very thing, because that's what people remember. People are going to remember that well before they remember, passage and verse, I don't know, like book and verse, chapter, all that. But man, your kids are going to be like, wow, she had, she had an interest in us. That's what love is, That's what love means. And, I'm sure your daughter is going to now expect that from you more often.
Maybe.
But,
Maybe.
but
my favorite
it shows
is to
love,
play rude customer when Serenity wants me to play with her. I'm like, this is what I ordered. And, like, she thinks it's funny. So if she didn't think it was funny, then I wouldn't do it anymore. But I'm like, no, this is not what I ordered.
I don't play rude customer.
Well,
I would play
wrong.
silly customer, like, or outrageous customer that's just in there, just wacky. Like, she'd be like, I'm playing cafe, and I would try to order something ridiculous. She's like, we don't have that. I'm like, what? Just kind of like, can't believe you don't have this. All right, well, I want this then. And, like, just try to, like, come up with, and what?
Yeah.
Just because, yeah. She would take it as me being mean if I was, like, this isn't it. I don't understand what you're doing.
I
Like,
frequently tell my child I don't like her and to go away.
wow.
And she thinks it's hilarious.
Yeah, she gets a kick out of it.
Only your daughter, honestly.
No, for
Yeah.
real, though. Like,
She giggles
it's
and
wild.
attacks me.
I mean, and it's definitely because she's her mother's daughter.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's definitely time to wrap up, but we really would like to hear your guys' examples, your guys' life experiences where you have either been generous or, had somebody be generous to you. Let's hear some examples. Let's teach each other by expressing examples that have happened in our lives.
And I would also encourage you, if you see somebody that's joyfully giving of any of those things, like, talk to them. Tell them, like, that you appreciate that you saw them doing it.
Yeah.
Because I think that's also important, is acknowledging it.
Encourage the
encouraging. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
sometimes, like, it's not until somebody says something to me about doing it, like, that I'm like, oh, like, this is actually making a difference. Like, yes, I'm still continuing to do that, but then it's like, okay, maybe that's the little bit boost that I need to be like, okay, I'm back in this. Like,
Yeah.
I'm back at this 100%. I was at, like, 80% before, but now it's back up.
Yeah, so hit us up on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and throw in the comments an example. I would love to hear examples of your generosity and others' generosity towards you. And we're going to pick out the best comment.
Oh, challenge.
Ooh. We're going to pick out the best comment and read it on an episode here in the near future.
Yeah.
Maybe not next week. That only gives like a week to do that.
Yeah. So in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, we're going to read out the best comment.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome.
Or even the comment with the most likes.
Ooh. There you go.
That'll challenge you guys to read it and encourage each other.
Yeah. Encourage
Right?
the encouragers. Let's go.
Encourage the encouragers. So let's see you do it. Let's see you show up. I know you can. And I appreciate those of you who do message us. We're encouraged by that.
Yes,
So
keep doing that.
be a joyful
Thanks,
giver.
Matt's mom.
There you go.
And Miss Pam.
And Miss
That's
Pam.
two. That's two.
But yeah, encourage each other. Be generous. Be joyful. Love others. Email us at thetruthresponse@gmail.com.
Wow.
And God bless.
Hey, thanks for joining us. Make sure to subscribe and give us a like on iTunes and Spotify so that you will never miss a show. And while you're at it, check out our Facebook and Instagram pages and make sure you tell your friends about this show. You don't want them to miss out on the truth because we are all about the truth here. Thanks for joining us this week, and God bless.